My beloved child. Listen very carefully, because what you are about to hear is not a story meant for everyone. It is a truth that arrives only once in a lifetime, and when it arrives, it changes the way you see people forever. Right now, somewhere close to you, there is a person smiling, talking, laughing, pretending that life is normal. But inside that person, something is quietly collapsing. This is not sadness that comes and goes. This is not disappointment from one bad day. This is the kind of disappointment that grows silently for years, hiding behind confidence, hiding behind responsibility, hiding behind promises made to others but never kept for the self. And here is the part that should make your heart stop for a second. This person did not fail because of bad luck. This person did not lose because of enemies. This person is disappointed with life because of a truth they can no longer escape. Stay with me, because the name of this person is closer to you than you can imagine, and when it is revealed, it will force you to question every connection you have ever trusted. Now pause for a moment and feel the weight of this. This person once believed life would be different. They believed that if they worked harder, stayed quiet, stayed loyal, stayed patient, everything would eventually fall into place. They sacrificed sleep, time, emotions, and even their own voice. They said yes when they wanted to say no. They stayed when they should have walked away. They smiled when they were breaking inside. And the world applauded them for being strong. But strength without truth becomes a prison. Slowly, very slowly, this person began to realize something terrifying. Life was moving forward, but they were standing still. Dreams they once protected like secrets began to feel embarrassing. Goals that once excited them now felt heavy. And every night, when the noise faded, one question echoed in their mind. Is this all my life will ever be? That question did not come from weakness. It came from awakening. And awakenings are painful, because once you see clearly, you can never return to comfortable lies. Here is what no one tells you about disappointment. It does not scream. It whispers. It does not arrive with chaos. It arrives with silence. This person started losing interest in things that once mattered. Conversations felt empty. Achievements felt hollow. Compliments felt undeserved. They began to feel invisible even in crowded rooms. And the most dangerous part is this. Everyone around them thinks they are fine. Because they are still showing up. Still helping others. Still being reliable. Still being the person people lean on. But inside, they are asking a question that changes everything. Who is there for me? This question scares them, because the answer is not comforting. They have spent so long being everything for everyone else that they forgot to be something for themselves. And now, life feels unfair, not because it was cruel, but because it was wasted trying to please the wrong expectations. Pay close attention to what comes next. This person is standing at a silent crossroads. One path leads to acceptance, where they convince themselves that this is just how life is supposed to be. Safe. Predictable. Emotionless. The other path leads to truth, where they must admit that they are deeply disappointed with the life they built, and that admission would require courage they are not sure they still have. Because choosing truth means risking judgment. It means disappointing others. It means letting go of an identity that took years to create. And that is why this moment is so dangerous and so powerful at the same time. Because people do not break when life is hard. People break when they realize they betrayed themselves. And this person is standing right at that realization, trembling, confused, but awake. Something big is about to happen. Either they will disappear slowly inside a comfortable routine, or they will shock everyone by choosing a life no one expected from them. The person who is disappointed with life is not weak. They are not ungrateful. They are not lost. They are someone who finally understands that surviving is not the same as living. And the reason the name of this person will shock you is simple. You see them every day. You trust them. You rely on them. You may even be inspired by them. But you have never seen the battle happening inside them. In the next part, the silence will break. The hidden patterns will be revealed. And the name behind this disappointment will no longer remain a mystery. What happens next will either heal a life or destroy an illusion forever. Now hear this carefully, because the silence around this person is about to crack. What you are witnessing is not the beginning of their downfall. It is the moment before a truth explosion. This person has reached a point where pretending feels heavier than honesty. Every morning they wake up with a strange pressure in the chest, not fear, not sadness, but something more dangerous. Awareness. They now see the patterns clearly. They see how their life slowly drifted away from what they once wanted. They see how their choices were shaped by fear of rejection, fear of being judged, fear of losing people who never truly understood them. And once this awareness arrives, it does not leave. It follows them into every conversation. Every smile feels delayed. Every laugh feels forced. And deep inside, a voice keeps repeating the same sentence. I cannot live like this anymore. That sentence is quiet, but it is powerful enough to change destinies. Let me reveal something shocking about this phase. When a person becomes disappointed with life, they do not want attention. They want clarity. They start observing instead of reacting. They listen more and speak less. They notice who drains them and who gives them peace. They remember moments when they felt alive, and compare them with the life they are living now. This comparison hurts, because it exposes the gap between who they are and who they pretended to be. And here is the truth most people miss. This person is not disappointed because they failed. They are disappointed because they succeeded at the wrong things. They became everything they were expected to be, and nothing they wanted to be. That realization hits harder than any loss, because it cannot be blamed on anyone else. Something else is happening quietly in their mind. They are replaying old decisions, not with regret, but with understanding. They now know why they stayed silent in moments that needed courage. They now know why they chose comfort over passion. They now know why they ignored that inner voice that warned them again and again. This understanding is painful, but it is also empowering. Because once you understand your own patterns, you can break them. This person is standing on the edge of change, and change always feels lonely at first. People around them will sense a shift. Not because of words, but because of energy. The people who benefited from their silence will feel uncomfortable. The people who love the old version of them will feel confused. And this person knows it. That is why they are afraid. Not of losing life, but of losing people. Now comes the part that connects directly to the title. The reason the name of this person will shock you is because you never imagined them feeling this way. They are the one who gives advice. The one who stays calm. The one who seems emotionally mature. The one who appears stable. But stability without fulfillment becomes a slow emotional suffocation. This person has reached the point where they must choose between being admired and being alive. Between being accepted and being authentic. Between keeping peace with others and making peace with themselves. And this choice will not be loud. It will not be dramatic. It will be subtle, but irreversible. A decision will be made in silence that will change everything people thought they knew about this person. Disappointment with life is not the end. It is the signal. It is the moment when the soul refuses to lie anymore. And this person is no longer asking for permission to change. They are preparing for it. In the next part, the emotional mask will slip further. The hidden trigger behind this disappointment will be exposed. And the identity of this person will start becoming clearer in a way that will make you look at your own life differently. Because sometimes, the most shocking name is not someone else. It is the name you recognize when the truth finally speaks. Understand this moment, because this is where everything becomes dangerous and real. This person did not wake up one day and decide to be disappointed with life. No. This disappointment was built slowly, brick by brick, through moments nobody noticed. Missed chances. Unspoken words. Compromises that felt small at the time but became heavy later. Every time they chose peace over truth, something inside them went quiet. Every time they accepted less than they deserved, their self-respect took a step back. And the scariest part is this. They convinced themselves that this was maturity. That sacrifice was strength. That silence was wisdom. But now, the illusion is breaking. They are realizing that what they called maturity was actually fear. What they called patience was actually avoidance. And what they called loyalty was actually self-abandonment. This realization is not gentle. It hits hard. It makes them question every decision that brought them here. And once that questioning begins, there is no turning back. Here is the hidden trigger nobody talks about. This person recently experienced a moment that changed everything. It was not dramatic. It was not loud. It was simple. Maybe they saw someone younger living freely. Maybe they heard a sentence that struck too deep. Maybe they felt ignored when they needed understanding the most. Or maybe they succeeded at something and still felt empty. That moment acted like a mirror. And for the first time, they saw their life without excuses. They saw how much they gave, and how little they received. They saw how often they were present for others, and how rarely anyone was present for them. That moment created a crack in their emotional armor. And through that crack, truth entered. Truth does not ask for permission. Truth does not care about comfort. It only reveals what is real. And what was real for this person was painful. They were living a life that looked right from the outside, but felt completely wrong on the inside. Something inside this person has now shifted permanently. They are no longer willing to ignore their inner voice. They are no longer willing to pretend that everything is fine. They are starting to feel anger, not towards others, but towards themselves. Anger for waiting so long. Anger for choosing safety over honesty. Anger for shrinking themselves so others could feel comfortable. This anger is not destructive. It is awakening. Because anger, when understood, becomes clarity. And clarity leads to action. This person is beginning to imagine a different version of their life. A life where they speak without fear. A life where they choose themselves without guilt. A life where they stop explaining their worth. And that imagination is both exciting and terrifying. Because once you imagine a better life, staying in the old one becomes unbearable. Now listen carefully to this next truth. The people around this person will not understand what is happening. Some will say they have changed. Some will say they have become selfish. Some will say they are overthinking. But none of them will see the full picture. Because the full picture lives inside silent nights and tired mornings. It lives inside the emotional exhaustion that comes from being strong for too long. It lives inside the sadness of realizing that no one ever asked how they were doing, because they always looked okay. And this is why the name of this person will shock you. Because they are not the one you expect to break. They are the one everyone thought was unbreakable. But even the strongest people have a limit. And crossing that limit does not make them weak. It makes them honest. This person is no longer disappointed because of what life did to them. They are disappointed because of what they allowed life to take from them. Their voice. Their dreams. Their truth. And now, they are standing at the edge of a decision that will redefine their identity. In the next part, the emotional consequences of this awakening will surface. The inner conflict will intensify. And the name connected to this disappointment will begin to feel uncomfortably familiar. Because sometimes, the most shocking revelation is not about someone else. It is about the life you recognize when the story finally reaches its truth. Now this is where the emotional storm truly begins. This person is no longer confused. Confusion has passed. What remains is clarity, and clarity is ruthless. It shows you exactly where you compromised yourself. It reminds you of every time you said you were fine when you were not. It exposes how many times you adjusted your dreams to fit into someone else's comfort. This person feels a strange mix of grief and relief. Grief for the life they could have lived. Relief because they finally understand why they have been feeling empty for so long. And once clarity arrives, pretending becomes impossible. The heart refuses to cooperate with lies anymore. The body feels tired in a way sleep cannot fix. The soul feels restless in a way distractions cannot calm. This is not a breakdown. This is an internal revolt against a life that no longer feels true. Something deeply unsettling is happening in their emotional world. They are starting to emotionally detach from roles they once protected with pride. The role of the strong one. The role of the understanding one. The role of the dependable one. These roles once gave them identity, but now they feel like chains. They realize that being needed is not the same as being valued. They realize that being appreciated only when convenient is not love. And this realization hurts, because it forces them to see relationships clearly. Not through hope. Not through memory. But through reality. They see who stayed only because they were useful. They see who listened only when it benefited them. And slowly, painfully, they accept a truth they avoided for years. Some people loved the comfort they provided, not the person they were. Now pay attention to this shift, because it is subtle but powerful. This person is beginning to withdraw, not out of bitterness, but out of self-preservation. They speak less because words feel wasted. They explain less because they are done justifying their feelings. They observe more because observation brings answers that conversations never did. And people notice. They feel the distance. They feel the change. Some try to pull them back into the old version. Some feel threatened by this new silence. But this person is not trying to hurt anyone. They are trying to save themselves. They are learning that protecting their peace is not selfish. It is necessary. And once they taste even a small amount of inner peace, returning to emotional chaos feels impossible. Here is the truth that connects everything together. This disappointment with life is not about failure, loss, or rejection. It is about misalignment. A life lived against one's own nature will always feel heavy. And this person has carried that weight for too long. They now understand that staying the same will cost them their soul, while changing will only cost them opinions. This realization creates fear, but it also creates power. Because fear fades, but regret lasts. And this person is no longer willing to grow old wondering what if. They are ready to risk misunderstanding. They are ready to be seen differently. They are ready to disappoint others instead of disappointing themselves every single day. This person is standing on the edge of transformation. Not the kind people celebrate, but the kind that happens in silence. The kind that reshapes identity. The kind that separates who you were from who you are becoming. In the next part, the final layer will peel away. The emotional truth will be undeniable. And the name behind this disappointment will no longer feel distant or abstract. It will feel personal. It will feel close. And it will force a question you can no longer ignore. What happens when the person disappointed with life finally chooses themselves? Now this is the moment where everything becomes unavoidable. This person can no longer delay the truth. The inner voice that was once ignored is now louder than every expectation placed on them. Silence has turned into pressure, and pressure has turned into resolve. They understand one powerful fact now. If they continue living this way, they will survive, but they will never feel alive. And that realization is terrifying. Because it means the real danger was never failure. The real danger was living an entire life without ever being honest with themselves. This awareness does not bring comfort. It brings responsibility. Responsibility to act. Responsibility to choose. Responsibility to finally stop betraying their own heart. Here is what most people will never notice about this phase. This person is grieving a version of themselves that no longer exists. The innocent dreamer. The hopeful believer. The one who thought effort alone was enough. Letting go of that version hurts more than losing people. Because it feels like saying goodbye to a part of their identity. They feel moments of guilt for wanting more. They feel moments of fear for stepping away from what feels familiar. But beneath that guilt and fear is something stronger. Certainty. Certainty that this inner discomfort is not a warning to stop, but a signal to move forward. Growth never asks politely. It demands courage, and courage always feels lonely at first. Now listen to this very carefully. The name that will shock you is not being revealed yet, because the real shock is not the name itself. The shock is the realization that this person could be anyone who looks put together but feels empty. Anyone who carries responsibility but feels unseen. Anyone who did everything right and still feels wrong inside. This person understands now that their disappointment with life is not a weakness. It is a message. A message that says you have outgrown this version of yourself. And once that message is understood, ignoring it becomes impossible without self-destruction. Something irreversible is happening inside this person. They are beginning to imagine a future where they are not constantly explaining themselves. Where they are not shrinking to fit into spaces that never appreciated their full presence. Where they wake up without the heavy feeling of emotional exhaustion. This future feels unfamiliar, and unfamiliar feels risky. But familiar pain has become unbearable. They are realizing that losing people who only love their convenience is not a loss. It is a release. And this realization is quietly strengthening them in ways no one can see yet. This person is no longer asking why life disappointed them. They are asking why they stayed so long in a life that did not honor them. And that question changes everything. In the next part, the final emotional truth will surface. The last resistance will fall. And the identity behind this disappointment will finally stand exposed, not as a victim of life, but as someone ready to reclaim it,